In our top stories, at the SAWA, SAA flights to Perth will not be disrupted and former Egyptian president's trial postponed. Good afternoon. South African Airways says flights to Perth in Australia will not be affected by the labour dispute between Australia's airline Qantas and employees. SAA offers 3 flights a week to Sydney, which are operated by Qantas in terms of a code-sharing agreement. SAA spokesperson Diliseng Kutle says flights to Perth will continue. He added that connecting flights within Australia were likely to be disrupted.
The SAA flights to Perth will not be affected by Qantas grounding their flights due to the industrial action. Flights that will be affected will be connections within Australia and flights operated in Sydney that we have a code share with Qantas Airlines.
One of the biggest COSATU-affiliated unions, NUMSA, has lambasted alliance leaders who have criticized the ANC Youth League march. Addressing the media in Johannesburg, NUMSA General Secretary Irvin Jim said some alliance members were sacrificing the principal position of economic transformation, which they previously stood for expedience of positions. The union has lamented what it says is a political environment where people cannot express their views freely. Jim says they get isolated when they speak out.
When we speak honestly about what must be done, and look, we're not going to speak in a corner on the room. There are those individuals within our own ranks who, instead of championing the policy framework of all these organizations, who must make sure that we help our own government to really execute its own mandate in relation to Polokwane, in relation to that. Instead, people are singling us out as individuals for isolation.
The union has committed itself to working with Youth League leader Julius Malema where necessary.
The Youth League, which went to its own conference, and unfortunately that conference was addressed by the leadership of the ANC. It emerged with the leadership that it has emerged with. As NUMSA and as COSATU, as any other board, we're not going to have new leadership of the ANC Youth League. That's the leadership that was elected. And therefore we are duty-bound to work with that leadership.
Government has declined to comment on reports that South African mercenaries were sent to Tripoli to bring slain former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi to South Africa. Gaddafi reportedly expressed the wish to settle in the Karoo. They were allegedly approached by a security company to assist in moving Gaddafi out of Sirte. After being issued with false passports, 3 groups of South Africans flew to Dubai and Cairo, from where they traveled to Libya to assist Gaddafi. He was shot and killed by rebel fighters before they could reach him. Government sources say there was no request to South African authorities to bring Gaddafi here. Gauteng Premier Nomvula Mokonyane has used the second last day of Census 2011 to stress the importance of being counted. She has called on people living in Gauteng who have not been counted to ensure they are recorded. Mokonyane says the results of the census will give government an indication of how to render services.
But as a premier of the province that is highly urbanized, that has got a high level of influx from various provinces, from various countries, I'm also looking forward to the results because they would then help in dealing with the distortions about the population that Gauteng has got, and it will help us to make sure that we budget properly for health, for bulk services, for housing, for anything including road construction, because we'll now know better how many vehicles are in each household.
And finally, further afield, the trial of the former Egyptian president Hosni Mubarak has again been postponed. The delay was announced as discussions continued over whether to replace judges. Mubarak and several of his aides are accused of involvement in the killing of protesters, and his 2 sons are charged with corruption. The BBC's John Lyon reports.
At a brief hearing in Cairo, the presiding judge Ahmed Rifat delayed the trial of Hosni Mubarak and the others charged with him until the end of December. A panel is considering whether to replace the judges who are conducting the trial after complaints from lawyers representing the families of those killed during the uprising earlier this year. The trial has been continuing sporadically since August, but even a resumption in December is by no means certain, as the members of the panel who are considering whether to replace the judges are themselves reported to have resigned.